Hey there, everybody, and welcome to a new series. It's on Almoravid, which just came in the other day. It's the Levian Campaign series, Volume 2, by Volko Runke, maker of many excellent games, but most pertinent to this game would be Nevsky, of course, a game that I've never played on channel, but I have played quite a bit of on my own. There was just so much about it when it came out that I didn't think it warranted me making a video about it, but this one being it's brand new, and I know that I've got a copy available to me, I figured I might as well delve into this one. So this video is going to be a little different than what I typically do. I don't usually do intros or overviews or unboxings or that sort of thing, but I would like to take a look at this one because it is so different than any of the other games that I play, different system, and it's not a learn to play by any means. I find that I actually end up learning more from people in the comments than probably people watching learn from me. But I just want to basically go over this new take on the series, repeat some things that Volko himself has said through videos and design diaries, and then parrot some of the things in the rule books, just to kind of give you an idea of what this game is different before we jump into it. I've already done introduction scenario. So I'm going to be doing the Parias Wars, which is a short scenario. It's basically these four, what are they, 40-day periods during the spring and summer of 1086. So that'll be the scenario we do, and then if it's not that long, if it's like a 1 or 2 video thing, which I don't imagine it will be, then we can maybe do some more. But basically, this game is similar in many ways to Nevsky. The big thing, obviously, is the area that this game takes place. This is in Spain rather than in Eastern Europe and Russia. So one of the big things will be the weather. Of course, the weather played such a very big part of Nevsky in that you had to carefully monitor the transportation that you carried around with you everywhere, because as the seasons changed, as did the terrain that you would use. So while that game focused a lot on waterways, this game has no waterways, like besides maybe like sea movement. But as far as the paths on the board, they are roads and passes. Let me actually point to something that's in frame. Roads and passes. Roads are obviously main thoroughfares that an organized army could go over with a supply train, and then paths are snaking or mountainous passes that are more difficult for carts and large supply trains to go down. So rather than having sleds and boats and carts, like in Nevsky, this when you have carts and mules. Mules are better on paths, but you have to feed them, of course, so they actually count towards your provender limit. So I don't know if it was the same way in Nevsky, just because I forget, but basically 6 or fewer, it only cost 1 provender when you move or battle, so that counts mules. So if you have 5 units and a mule, that's 6, whereas if you have 6, typically what you could have done in Nevsky, you could have had 6, and then your transportation, you'd have been fine, but this one, 6 units plus a mule will actually kick you up to 2 provender. So that's the big cosmetic difference outside of the way things look, which I have to say, first of all, to touch on this, the cover art from Nevsky was so controversial. I remember people talking about that for the longest time when it first came out. This is stellar, regardless of anything about Nevsky. This is beautiful. Everything about this is excellent. All the illustrations are. The map is lovely. I love the sigils and flags that the different lords and emirs have. It's beautiful, as is typical. But structurally, this game works the same way. You still have command cards that you'll stack. There are still Art of War cards for both sides, so none of that's different. You still have the command, whatever these things are called, where you put the units on. That's not different. You still have a giant sack of wooden units that you'll be placing on them and battling with. The big one about this for me that I think is just fascinating is this typhus politics, which is very different from Nevsky. That one kind of had a weird political thing going on with like the Russian nobility or whatever it was in those two cities. It was in Novgorod or whatever. I forget what it was. But you kind of had that aspect going on, but it didn't nearly dominate the scene as much as it does, as the politics do in this game. So basically, each province has a little marker, place for a marker in it, and once again, I'm not actually an expert in this period of Spanish history, so don't think that I know all of this stuff and I'm actually a genius. I'm really just parroting what Volko has said in a really, really good video where he delves into the historical aspects and inspirations. I'm just paraphrasing and repeating, but each one has a space where it can reflect its alignment. So at this period of time, the different emirs in central and southern Spain were much more fragmented, were independent, and we're basically going through like a racketeering thing with the Christian kingdoms of the north, where they would align themselves with them by paying tribute to them. So there's different statuses that it can be as a parias, which it looks like parias. I don't know if there's any connection between that, but I think it's literally spelled like parias. So I wonder if that's where we get the term from. I genuinely don't know. But Volko was pronouncing it parias. So these are the states that are considering to pay tribute to the Christian kingdoms. You can have Reconquista, which is reconquered by the Spanish, and then you can have independent. And those are hostile to the Christians, and they are their own states, but they fight together. They're not independent of one another. They cooperate together. So the thing about it is, you can forcefully take one of these states. You can see the borders here, just like you would in Nevsky, and take it over just like you would in Nevsky, except, of course, they actually have a control thing, if you control this area or not. But the other way to do it is to get rid of the emir that is in that area. So if this guy gets disbanded for any number of reasons, that can be anything. It could be supply, it could be pay, it could be it just runs up naturally. I don't know if cards, I haven't gotten that far. I don't know if cards can do that or not, if they can move them down. But there are different ways that you can move their service markers down, or if they're defeated in battle, I assume as well. When they're removed from the map, then it automatically flips over to a parias state, so it's no longer independent. So as long as this guy is on the map, it's independent, but and it will be neutral. It'll be favoring the Muslim player. Whereas if it's parias, it's neutral, and if it's Reconquista, it's favoring the Christian. So like there's all these different states that each of these states can be in. They can be hostile, neutral, different things that totally change the aspect of where Nevsky was very one-dimensional, and I don't mean that as a bad thing. I just mean like it was you go and attack, and the stuff on this side of the line is Russian, the stuff on this side is Teuton. Simple as can be, an excellent start to that series. This takes it and just turns it into a puzzle, and it's like a giant jigsaw puzzle of alignments and stuff that you're always monitoring, and I really like how it very clearly, for me, establishes strategy. In Nevsky, I am terrible at Nevsky, I'll be honest. I'm a blundering idiot when I play that game. I'm terrible at logistics, even though I love the logistics. Like that's my favorite part of this game. If it was just moving these pieces around and fighting with wooden cubes, I really wouldn't. It would be fine. But like the logistics side is what really makes it fascinating, because you have to manage it in a way that no other game you really have to. So in that game, I'm like, okay, I know I have to get victory points, but I'm always really bad at figuring out the best way to do something. I'm like, okay, well, should I focus all of my people here, or should I split up and have two fronts and try and split the enemy? Anyways, there's a lot of different ways you can tackle it, but the strategy I'm not great at. This provides you a very easy way to hone in. I really want to take Zaragoza, and so I know I'm going to take this, and that's going to get me a Reconquista marker. Or vice versa, the same way around. We want to retake this. It's largely the same, but for me at least, it helps me hone in on the tasks ahead by dividing things up into more bite-sized zones. That's not a complaint about Nevsky. That's just a feature of this game that I really enjoy. And the other thing that's kind of thrown in here is the Jihad. There's still Ravage markers, but there's these Jihad markers as well that can be placed by capabilities or cards or other means, and those are placed in areas and will affect the status of those areas. So like we'll get into it. I don't want to go to it too much because I guess it's not a learn to play. But like this area is friendly to the Christian kingdoms because it's been reconquered, and so if there are Jihad markers on this area, this specific area here, this stronghold, then that populace there is basically favoring, the Muslim lords, or there's this popular uprising because just because they conquered this area doesn't mean they truly control the populace. So those Jihad markers also have there's battles within battles. Like you have a battle for Toledo, but within Toledo, it's not just as simple as let's go and take this. Let's go take Toledo City, as they say in the rule book. There's also these like smaller fights or smaller aspects that I think really liven up and take the board and make it three-dimensional in ways that just Nevsky didn't. Not because it couldn't or because it was bad, but because it wasn't designed that way. There's just so much depth in this that I've only just tapped into, having only played one scenario. But it's beautiful. It's an incredible series. The stuff that I've played so far has been engaging, and it's going to be a real interesting time that I hope you get to observe me trying to unlock and figure this stuff out. So this is the scenario we're starting off with, the Parias Wars. I haven't set the whole thing up. I've just set up enough here to explain to you a little bit of what the situation is at the start. But Toledo has already been conquered by the Christian lords, and so you can see that the emirs have kind of rallied. All of the other places besides Valencia have rallied to the Muslim cause, and the Christian lords are going to have to continue their advance while the Muslims will try and retake Toledo. This has El Cid in it, of course. If you don't know much about this time period, once again, check out that Volko Runke video that he did on it, because there's a lot of fascinating historical background and great theme music as well. So big props on the music. So yeah, we're going to hop into this. This is going to be a standalone separate episode so that you guys can at least get a little taste before we hop in. But I'm really looking forward to this. I really think this is going to be a hit. There have been so many big games to come out. I feel like over the last 12 months, we're talking Atlantic Chase and Tomahawk's Bayonets or Bayonets Tom, whatever it is. The French and Indian War game, Pacific War. I mean, there's like just this last 12 months has been dynamite, big title after big title. And I think that this one isn't as flashy as some of the other ones. Like, obviously, Pacific War has a million counters for you to play with, and there's nostalgia. But, like, this one, I think, is as innovative as Atlantic Chase is. And, like, Atlantic Chase is a brand new series. This is a second edition of a series that already exists. But, like, this is such a great, and like I said, I'm speaking early here. I've only played one scenario. But, like, I had such a fun time monitoring the situation there and seeing the possibilities that I really think that this is one of the best. I really hate to say upgrades because Nevsky is incredible. Like, if Nevsky was the only game in that series, you would say it's one of the best that GMT has put out as far as the series goes. This takes that and just to a whole other level. I wouldn't say that I like this more than Nevsky, having only played one scenario of it, but it definitely, when I'm playing these two, I will know which one I want to take to the table. I won't be like, oh man, Nevsky. Like, when I play coin games, sometimes I'm like, I don't know, I can't decide between which one I want to play, because sometimes, not that they're similar, but sometimes it's kind of like, what flavor do you want? This is totally different in every way. It's just enough to where I could pick it up and read the rule book and be like, yeah, I know where I'm at. I only have to read like 50% as much as I normally would. But it's new enough that I don't feel like I'm just playing a reskin. So with that said, I'm going to put this up and look for the next couple episodes. It may be a little while from the posting of this before we get to it. But I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait to join me for this one. It's going to be a lot of fun.